So today we're gonna have Drew over, or we have Drew over. We want to talk to you about cooking, about chefs, about everything that you can tell us. So where are you from, Drew?
Awesome. Thank you very much first for having me.
Of course.
I'm from Austin, Texas, just in Mexico City, visiting, eating as much as I possibly can, even through COVID. Yeah.
Okay. When did you learn how to cook and where?
I've been cooking since I was very young. 14, my first job was in McDonald's. Super funny. I worked there for about a year. If you look back at a lot of famous chefs, they started in very lowly positions as like
fast food restaurants
or It's super funny.
Did you get free meals?
Only when I worked there.
Okay.
Not outside. And I didn't really want
Are you sick of McDonald's by now?
I don't eat a lot of McDonald's.
I bet. So right now, where do you see yourself like in 10 years, or what is your dream as a chef now that you've had all these experiences? And
that's a super loaded question. Right now, we're going through the biggest struggle that I think the culinary industry has ever seen. I have done a lot of travels, starting at 14 when I was cooking at McDonald's. That really pushed me into something I never really expected to get out. It was a weird world, and it's very different than a lot of other careers cooking with a large group of people. But that led me down a road, going to culinary school, doing 2 years through there, and then going to Europe right away, which gave me a great foundation. Culinary school, then going to Europe, spent a lot of time in Italy, a little bit in Paris, a little bit in Barcelona.
How did you get to all those places?
I did my first internship or my externship, one of my last quarters of culinary school.
Okay.
And from there, I got to choose where I wanted to go, and I had always had a love for pasta and Italian food, so I really, really wanted to go there, so that's where I chose.
Awesome. And right now, what are you doing?
So I currently work at the Fairmont Hotel in Austin, Texas. Very, very big hotel, 1,048 rooms. Has a lot of awards through Forbes. We're a 4-star rated hotel. 5 stars is the most you can get. And there's only about 3 of those in the United States. So it's very, very big.
Are they around the world too?
Fairmont is based out of Paris. Accor is the large group that owns Fairmont. But they have the Sofitel here in Mexico City.
Okay.
They have some other in Cancun, Riviera Maya as well as all over the world. 92 different countries at least.
Awesome. So where do you see yourself? Or you don't know, just wherever you...
Yeah, it's sort of hard to know. Like right now, I'm sort of content where I'm at, learning and growing. We have 4 restaurants that we operate in the hotel, all different cuisines, Asian, Italian. There's a fireplace restaurant that focuses on local cuisine, as well as a Mexican restaurant that's serviced at the pool. There's a lot of knowledge with all the chefs that are there.
Okay.
So right now it's very stable, and there's a lot of things to learn. I've been cooking now for 14 years or so. You get to a point from cooking to where you need to transition into management, and so that's sort of like a completely different game.
And do you enjoy more cooking, or do you enjoy more like the things in the back?
Definitely more cooking.
Okay.
Managing is so different because you have to know how to talk and understand all different kinds of people. In the morning, in the afternoon, nighttime, in very stressful situations. Kitchens service sometimes 50 people up to 2,000 people in different kitchens, depending on what kind of food you're doing or where you're at. If you're at a ballpark and you're just constantly seeing thousands and thousands of people. So it's very diverse, and it can be super crazy and hectic at times.
And what kind of food do you cook inside of those different areas of the Fairmont?
My focus is Italian food. As I mentioned, I love Italian food. I love fresh pasta. I lived in central Italy, which focuses a lot on truffles, which are a very expensive, nice type of mushroom, as well as they have a lot of nice pork there. So that's really the basis of central Italian cuisine, and what I learned how to do, rolling everything out by hand, a lot of different mom and pop or grandmother recipes. And so that's the foundation of what I do, and I've translated that into the hotel.
Okay, awesome. And is there any complex or very complex dish inside of that area of Italian food that you've cooked before?
Complexity, that's an interesting question.
Okay, why?
Food itself is very complex but very simple.
Okay. But is there a dish that it's hard to like to master or to get it right?
I would say everything takes practice.
Okay.
Pasta itself is very, very hard. Everything changes.
Pasta from scratch?
Pasta from scratch is very hard. It's a lot like making bread. Whether it's raining outside, if it's cold inside, it's very humid or hot, changes the texture. Whether it's super dry and it wants to fall apart because it's brittle, or it's very pliable and leathery, and it's something that you have to have a lot more feeling versus just a recipe.
Okay.
And that's the biggest thing I think you learn as a chef, that it's a lot more like learning of like you have to adapt all the time depending on the kitchens, whether you're in Mexico or Europe or the United States. The ingredients you use are different. The altitude that you cook at is different. And so that, I would say, is the hardest struggle. You can make anything you want to.
Okay.
But you have to have the knowledge behind it to be able to adapt to those kinds of situations.
Right. But now that you're talking about that, you told me that you lived in different parts of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
In which parts of the world have you lived?
So
Italy?
Yeah, Italy for the longest time, about a year, and then Paris in France, and then Barcelona, Spain, and then Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Awesome. And it's different to cook over there than in the US, than in Mexico, because of the altitude and the climate and the temperature and everything, right?
100%.
How does that change the cooking?
You have to adapt ingredients. The biggest thing when I went to Brazil, I thought that I knew a lot about cooking. That's my most recent venture about 5 years ago. I'd been cooking for 10 years through culinary school in a lot of different places internationally. But the ingredients that they have there, I never even heard what they were. I didn't know what they tasted like. I didn't know the textures. I didn't know how they would perform when cooking them.
Was it like starting from zero again to cook?
It was a lot of answering of questions for me, and then like working with them and watching people, and it was very crazy, but very, very good. It gave me a insight to a lot of things I never thought I'd ever see before.
Have you cooked here in Mexico City?
Never
Besides
for an actual restaurant.
From the pastries and everything that you do with Andy?
Yeah, I've never actually cooked in a restaurant here in Mexico City. I would love to.
But you've done pasta?
Yeah.
Was it hard?
It was a little bit, yeah.
Why?
I didn't have so there's a lot of things that go into it, using like a wooden table versus a metal table. Those ingredients react differently to...
Why? How does it change?
When you're rolling on wood, the moisture that's within the dough stays on the table. When it's on a metal platform, it changes. It's very cold. It doesn't adapt to the weather very well, so it creates more of a firmer dough. Also, whether or not you're using a wooden dowel to roll it out, or you're using an electric pasta machine, changes a lot of things. I was rolling it out actually with a wine bottle because we didn't have either of the things that I needed. So
you thought that was a good...
That was something I picked up when I was in Italy, and I thought it was very funny. And I've seen people use broomsticks and random other things around the kitchen, but wine bottle seems to be a good one to use.
So a lot of industrial kitchens have a lot of metal. Does that have a reason? That's the same reason?
Stainless steel is a very clean area that it doesn't get messed up very often, but we have designated areas that have wood tables for pastries, for pasta work, for depending on what you're doing.
Okay. So yesterday I was reading about some of the rankings of the best cuisines in the world. The first ones that I found were from CNN or from these other web pages that have the same ranking. So for example, I found out that the first one was Italy, then China, then France, Spain, Japan, India, Greece, Thailand, Mexico, and the US. Other sites were kind of the same. The lists changed a bit, but I wasn't sure like how they ranked these places or how they ranked these cuisines and the factors that came into place, right? Or who votes for those places. So for you, which one would be the best? The Italian.
I because I'm very biased and live there and I love pasta, I definitely say Italy. But that's, of course, it's biased. A list is a list. Depending on where you're from or what you're trying to get out of it. If you're looking for a specific chef, or you're looking for a specific cuisine, how forward thinking are they? Are they trying to change the world and what we think of as food? And Spain did that for 10 years, and they were ahead of the entire world for the longest time, but then now other places like Copenhagen, Mexico City, different places like Peru and like Russia, how now come on the map, and you wouldn't expect some of those places to be major food cities, but they're really showing their light.
Right, and it's also a lot about like public relations, or not public relations, but how they communicate their food to the world, right? Like how much they invest on sharing that to other places so that people know about it and people want to talk about it and vote for it or
100%.
whatever it is.
Yeah, in Brazil, I would say is the biggest example. When I went there, the restaurant I worked at, Dome, with Chef Alex Atala, was the 6th best restaurant in the world, via the 50 best restaurants in the world.
Okay.
That's probably the most acclaimed rating system for any restaurant. And what Alex Atala was doing there was showing the entirety of the country of Brazil as well as the world what they had to offer. Okay. Nobody really knew anything about Brazil, as I didn't know anything about the ingredients and the fruits and vegetables. And Alex Atala went into the Amazon.
Who is Alex?
Alex Atala is the chef of Dome, the restaurant that I worked at.
Okay.
He went into the Amazon, met up with people, started these organizations to try to find all these different products around Brazil and how to become more self-sustainable. It's something in the United States that we sort of take for granted. I can get peaches from Georgia, or I can get or oranges from Florida, apples from Michigan, and strawberries from California within a day or every day with no problem. In Brazil, things are very segregated. To the north, things are in the north, things are in the south, and you don't really cross paths much. So really what Alex Atala tried to do was to extinguish that.
Like to combine everything?
To try to combine, just to show people all around the country what they had, and to really get other people to cultivate those things and grow more businesses and become more affluent and understand that they can utilize these things from around the world and send them to other places and have people use them in kitchens everywhere.
Right. And you know what I was thinking the other day too, that maybe, well, some kitchens I think or cuisines are very criticized because they use ingredients, or they use like as a base other plates or other foods from other places to make their own. And I think, or well, in my opinion, I think that's okay, because for example, Mexico uses a lot of things from many other places and still has its own traditions, its own plates, its own, like how do you say it? Flavors.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? Do you think food should be made with the ingredients grown in that same place, or do you think that combining things from different parts of the world makes a better plate or a better?
I think it goes a little bit both ways. Food is very much art.
Okay.
You have to look at it from the outside in a way. Food is either nourishment because you have to eat every single day, or food is art that you want to show somebody what you're doing. Food started forever ago and has slowly moved as people migrate around the entire world. Pasta started in Asia, like Asian noodles. That was a developed country before Italy was ever a thing. And so then it generates into Italian food, where you have different types of noodles, different types of sauces using different ingredients based off of a Chinese sort of spectrum of noodles and sauces as well. Okay. But they had different ingredients growing there, so that they used what they had. Same thing as I would say.
It's a thing of like growing and changing and making it their own, no?
Yeah, 100%. Whatever you could grow at the time, whatever you were capable of and what you knew you could grow, you had to try it. At one point, when people came to America or to Mexico, those settlers had to figure out what they knew what to grow, what worked well with the terrain that they had, and then sort of expand from there.
Okay.
So you have a lot of things in the southern part of the United States that are African, a lot of different like corn and beans and different kinds of heirloom rice that you'd find that were once in Africa. And there's a lot of influence with that. You have nice peppers and everything like that. But then when you go up to the very northeast, you won't see that kind of food. But they have plentiful seafood because they're right there on the Atlantic Ocean. So there's a lot of lobster and there's a lot of oysters and those things. And it's also colder weather. So you have to adapt to having a different kind of cuisine that can last through winter versus a southern cuisine that is going to stay mostly warm throughout the year.
Okay.
It's a lot of adaptation. And that's all over the world. Like there's no singular cuisine that is specifically their own. Everything has adapted based off of who moved there at what time. And people had wars and conquered the other countries and they brought their ingredients there. So the first question you asked, I wouldn't say it's better or worse. I think it's better that we infuse different cultures together, because you can come up with something very new.
Right. And I mean, and I think it needs to change eventually because things change anyway. So, for example, today, what would you consider is very important to rank or to make up a good food or a good cuisine in a place or in a country? How would you if you were able to make up your own list of the best places, what things would you consider in order to make that list?
So for me as a chef, and this is different than like the average person because I have a lot of information constantly thrown at me. People I work with, all we do is talk about food. The things that I see that are the most interesting and the reason like why they have the lists of these different countries, because people are really going back to the roots of utilizing what is local. Like farm to table has been a thing that's been thrown around for a long time. And a lot of countries have always done farm to table. I feel like Italy has always done farm to table. You pretty much go every single day to the farmer's market, you come home with the ingredients you need and you cook for the day.
Okay.
In the United States, we don't really focus on that, and we've sort of gotten back to that where now more local farms are around and we can go get this beef and these vegetables and this and that, and it tastes better and it's healthier for you versus these big manufactured ingredients. And so for me, the people that are doing the best are really diving back into their own culture, not really looking for what's outside of that, like really staying true to this is a Nordic dish because it's made with these berries from here, this meat from here, this milk from here, and it's something that's been around for 100 years or 200 years or whatever it may be.
Okay.
And they're really just taking those ingredients, a couple, 3, 4, 5 ingredients, and treating them very, very well to get like a really amazing dish that's just very simple, but speaks to where it's from.
So something that is representative of the place.
Yeah, 100%.
And obviously good flavor and good ingredients and good everything.
Technique is different. Like you might learn how to cut something differently because somebody in Japan makes samurai swords and then down the line learns how to make knives and their knives are very, very sharp, and then you buy one of those knives and you learn how to cut better than somebody else, and so you learn how to do sashimi and cut fish. You're not doing sashimi per se in Nordic countries, but you're taking that fish that they have there and cutting it in a specific way. So that's like the difference where I think infusion happens more than ingredients, but a lot of people take the techniques from other places and implement them into their own lifestyle and their own countries and cuisine.
Okay. Do you think you learned a lot of techniques when you were around
100%.
Brazil and France?
100%. Everyone does. I learn something every single day.
Really?
Yeah, and that's even eating here, like not even being in like an actual kitchen, but at home, just different ways that people make sauces. You can use a molcajete, you can char them, you can boil them. Like there's all these different kinds of chilies. Like it drastically changes the flavor and the texture and the spice, and that those little things are like memories for me that I can take it. My palate. I remember those tastes and I can recreate them in different ways, utilizing, say, ingredients from the United States, different peppers that we might not have here in Mexico.
Okay.
But those techniques, a lot of the techniques that are in the kitchen are more based around how you hold yourself as a person. Like me, I've been in the kitchen for long enough that I had to transfer more towards managing other people. And that's probably the hardest, like trying to control them, not control them, but get them to work as one machine. Like you're just a cog and you have 8 other cogs that you need to work together and to work and work and work. And when there's a problem, to fix it.
Right.
And those are things that you find in every other country, like how people work, especially in the top restaurants in the world, how those people operate, regardless of the food that they're cooking, but at the highest level possible. And still with like flawless, no problems whatsoever.
So do you think it's hard to get a kitchen to work like unitedly, or is that a word?
Yeah,
okay.
100%. I would say it's like I didn't mean to cut you off. It's harder to cook altogether than to cook. Like cooking is the easy part.
Okay.
Cooking is literally
But making a kitchen work is the hard part.
That's 80%, because if you think about it, everyone has their own issues at any time. Like one station's busier than the other. A cooler goes down in the middle of service, or the lights go out, or someone's just getting backed up. Someone overcooks a steak and they have to recook it, and that's backs everything up by 20 minutes, and you have to time a bunch of dishes together because the whole entire table is waiting. Like a lot of those struggles happen.
Because I was reading yesterday too that there are different kinds of chefs. There was the master chef or something like that, the sous chef. What other chefs are there in the kitchen?
Yeah, so that's like speaking upon the brigade system, which was developed in France, and really what the entire world uses today. And it just means that like it works in the same way as like a political stance. Like you have the president or the executive chef. They're the people who make all the decisions, and they're really the person who's focused on going forward. Under that, you can have a chef de cuisine or an executive sous chef.
What are you?
Currently in my position, I'm a sous chef, so I would say I'm third in command.
Okay.
So really, my big focus is to focus on 2 different restaurants. Working in unison together. So the Asian kitchen and Italian kitchen at the hotel are right next to each other, and we service our restaurant. So my job is to oversee approximately 15 cooks at any given time.
Wow.
Cooking in unison and making sure tickets are on time and everything is going out properly.
Okay. Awesome. So what other tips would you give, or what tips would you give to someone that's starting with being a chef and starting to cook and starting to get into that industry that's, by what I understand, very, very complicated and very tough to be in, because kitchens are very tough to work at, right?
Stressful. Long hours, holidays, when regular people want to go out and play and have New Year's and have birthdays, like most likely you're the person working during all those times. It's something you have to sacrifice for. To me, like, I would say if you really enjoy food, you like cooking, one, you'll learn till the day you die. That's one of the cool things about my job is that I never have the end goal, really. Like I have things I want to do, but I'll continue to learn until I die, and that keeps me pushing to learn and grow and be a better chef, and how I can help out my own restaurant and my own staff and what I can do for them and grow further. But I would say just research, like go to your local markets, go to your farmers markets and look at ingredients, things you don't know, like taste them, and just start like reading cookbooks, like look at recipes, and start from there. Like try out a recipe, see how things are.
Practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect. And everyone's tastes are different. Like you might not like tomatoes and someone else might love them, and so you learn to adapt recipes based off of those things, and from there, like a good foundation is to go like try a restaurant. You can do what's called staging. Working for free is mostly why I traveled. I worked for free just to learn those different kinds of cuisine and the culture around them.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest thing that you can do if you have the time. Like even if it's one day a week, or one day a month, you will gain so much information just from that.
Is there any chef that you look up to? A famous chef?
Alex Atala was one of those chefs that I still do really, really look up to him, and I was really dumbfounded to be there and around his presence and be one of the top 10 restaurants in the world. I was sort of starstruck in a way, and he was one of the most humble people I've ever met.
You learned a lot from
I
him?
learned a lot. I mean, he is the face of the restaurant, so he's really the person searching forward, but the chefs under him had so many things that they could teach me, and every day I learned something new about ingredients, about their way of cooking, and their culture, and super amazing.
How cool.
Yeah.
Well, Drew, thank you for coming. I think you're a very interesting person, a very interesting chef. So I really enjoyed hearing from you. We would love to have you back some other time. Yeah. Maybe the next time you were here in Mexico City, we can also go for some drinks or some Mexican food.
For sure.
You can take us to your favorite restaurant.
Awesome.
And well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.